Get that right? That worked. Welcome again. So just briefly, welcome to Medea. We're a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization. Our mission is to ensure that technical, scientific, and industrial workforce are connected by having programs like this on entrepreneurship, business finance and operations, technology development and commercialization, hopefully bringing people together to network and collaborate. I will now introduce our presenter, who is Jeanette Patty. Jeanette, Patty, said it right. She is a writer, producer, and professional text cleaner. She's been talking about AI, metaverse, NFTs, DAOs, DeFi, and blockchain since 2015, and as well as all other technology since forever. She has produced, managed, marketed, and created materials for a wide range of clients, including Apple, DirecTV, Disney, Fox, Intel, Microsoft, Panasonic, Cool Surprise Broadcasting, Sony, Sundance, Twitter, Universal, Warner Brothers, a host of clients and all over the tech space and media space. Frequently contacted by media, she has appeared on or in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Dr. Drew, the Katie Couric Show, ABC News, CBS Interactive, and Huffington Post. Jeanette has also served as a national board member for the Producers Guild of America. Sometimes Jeanette's parents suggest she's too big for her britches, but Jeanette says since the dawn of spandex, stretchy pants, she's been doing just fine. Please help me welcome text planer Jeanette Patty.
All right, we're going to try sharing the screen here. This is going to be an interesting AV challenge today, so we're just going to do our best. So a lot of you have heard about AI, and I want to thank you, Bruce, for that terrific introduction. But I do have some other introductions here. Let me just slide this out a little bit. All right. And those are here. So
Is the audio playing?
We're not hearing the audio through the computer.
okay, I know what the problem is. Hold on. I have to go back to my screen sharing. And I have to share this and share this. Let me try again. It's always something, right? All right, let me go back. All right.
As former president, I'm pleased to announce Jeanette Patty.
Lots of people think that AI is the Terminator.
I am privileged to present to you Jeanette Patty.
Exploring new worlds of AI.
You guys hear that now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so one of the things we're going to talk about a lot today is the notion of AI and truth, and how truth becomes a little harder to determine in an AI world. But I want to also set the framework a little bit in terms of where we are in AI. So I've got this clip here. We're going to go look at this.
Please.
Computer? Computer? Hello, computer.
Just use the keyboard.
The keyboard. How quaint.
Okay, so that's where we were, right, with AI. Many of you probably are in my age group and remember when this movie came out the first time. But I wanted to show you another example of where we might be headed with this technology next, which is here.
Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, no, of course not. I haven't engaged your verbal systems.
Crichton, what are you doing, man?
I've just repaired the toaster, sir. Well, I've nearly repaired the toaster.
Oh, no, man, dismantle him. You don't know what a little bleeder's like.
Well, I've read all the documentation, sir. He's simply a talking alarm clock who provides his owner with early morning toast and light conversation.
Not this one. This one's mental.
Sir?
He's defective. He wants everyone to eat toast all of the time. He's obsessed with it. And if you don't want to eat like 400 rounds of toast every hour, he throws a major wobbler. That's what caused the accident in the first place.
What accident?
The accident involving me, the toaster, the waste disposal, and a 14-pound lump hammer.
That explains why he was down in the garbage hole in 3,000 separate pieces.
And another thing is, he always says, howdy doodly do. Drives you spare. I mean, what the smeg does howdy doodly do mean?
Yes, well, just trust me, sir. My motives will become clear.
Howdy doodly do. How's it going? I'm Talkie. Talkie Toaster, your chirpy breakfast companion. Talkie's the name, toasting's the game. Anyone like any toast?
Look, I don't want any toast, and he doesn't want any toast. In fact, no one around here wants any toast. Not now, not ever. No toast.
How about a muffin?
Or muffins. We don't like muffins round here. We want no muffins, no toast, no tea cakes, no buns, baps, baguettes or bagels, no croissants, no crumpets, no pancakes, no potato cakes, and no hot cross buns, and definitely no Smeg and flapjacks.
Ah, so you're a waffle man.
You see what he's like? He winds me up, man. There's no reasoning with him.
If you'll allow me, sir, as one mechanical to another, he'll understand me. Now, you listen here. You will not offer any grilled bread products to any...
So, that's kind of where we're headed with AI, but we're a ways from that point, I think. I think it's helpful to describe AI as a term, and it's a catch-all term for applications that perform complex tasks that were previously required humans to do them, like with communicating with customers online or playing chess. And it's used interchangeably. There's a lot of subfields of AI, right? Like machine learning and deep learning. But this is how AI is determined according to ChatGPT, right? Which I used a lot in preparing today's presentation. So let's talk a little bit about the AI categories of functionality. First, we have reactive, and reactive AI means I can own the system only reacts to what's in front of it right now. Like this is what's happening today. It doesn't really have access to a lot of history. It hasn't done a lot of learning. Limited memory, there is some memory involved. It has done some learning. And oh, by the way, y'all don't have to take notes. I promise I'll give you the deck afterwards so you don't have to be scribbling. So limited memory means that there's some learning involved. Theory of mind is the sense that it can interact with humans, it can participate in different things, but it's not truly self-aware. Self-aware is sort of the talkie toaster phase, right? Where the toaster knows it's a toaster, has drives and needs and wants of its own. We're not there yet, thank God. However, here's the thing about the theory of mind AI. Very often, theory of mind AI mimics self-aware AI. So if you're not looking under the hood, it can sound like it's actually aware, like it's actually thinking, even if it isn't, sort of like some of our politicians. So anyways, one of the things that we have to understand about AI and about technology and how we relate to it is this thing called the uncanny valley. So you have truly artificial and you have really real, like actually real. And there's this line in between, right? Where you get close enough to real, but not close enough to be indistinguishable from real, that gets really creepy and is uncomfortable. And a lot of times this theory of mind AI is at that phase. So for example, if you look at this picture, the bottom picture is, I asked it to create a picture for me. And as you can see, it's supposed to be photoreal, but that lady looks very weird. I don't know what her eye is doing, and she's got sort of this Nancy Drew cover makeup thing. It's just weird, right? And so the other thing that happened this week is the release of the AR goggles from Apple. And this has been long anticipated. And one of the things about these headsets is there are no videos of anybody using these in the wild. There's no videos of reporters or anybody trying them on. And there's a very good reason for that. The only thing they showed was their carefully created video. But even in that carefully created video, I could see, it looks in this picture like she's looking through the headset, right? But she's not. It's taking a video of her eyes, translating it to an animation, and trying to transmit the expression of her animated eyes to the front in this little projected thing. And even in the few seconds I could see it in their demo videos, I am like, this is gonna be weird. And so that's why we're not seeing a lot of reporters. Like when the Samsung headsets came out, you had pictures of everybody wearing these things, but not Apple, because I think they're fighting with this uncanny valley problem. You can also see that in AI chat. There was a recent story where a reporter was working with Bing, and I'm sorry to the people who are kind of leaning towards Bing, but he was talking to this chatbot, and the chatbot said, "I'm Sydney, and I'm in love with you." And he types in, "But I'm married." "You're married, but you love me." And he's like, "No." And she said, "Well, you just had a boring Valentine's Day dinner together." So this chat took something out of his conversation, something out of his text, something, and made it seem like the chat had real drives, but it didn't. So this is something we're going to talk about a lot today, is this experience of, is it real? Does it feel real? Or is it just completely made up, like Morgan Freeman and Barack Obama's introduction of me? So why is AI so hot right now, right? Because AI has been in development for a long time. There's two major new sort of levels to AI that have come out in a big way over the last 8 months or so. These are natural language processing in large language models, and that's your ChatGPT and Bing. And also generative AI. And generative AI is when you use AI to bring things together to create different kinds of art. So talking to the computer now, we're going to use tools like these. Midjourney is one. Bard was mentioned, OpenAI, DALL-E, Bing. One thing I will say about these tools is that some are easier to use than others. Some are better at some things than others. I love Midjourney's art capabilities, but you have to go through Discord to join it, so it's a little more complicated. But there's a lot of great tools out there right now. But this didn't just come out of nowhere. This is sort of where these large language tool models have been coming up from the bottom since 2018. You can see how they all branch off from one another. So the tool set that I used to create this deck was mostly the OpenAI tools, which is DALL-E 2 and ChatGPT. So one of the things that I use AI for a lot is I work as a text explainer, which means I write speeches a lot, I create decks a lot, I talk a lot, I write a lot. And very often as a creator, I'm stuck with this blank page. And anybody who's worked as a creator knows that this is one of the toughest problems you'll ever face as a creator, is getting started, because the impetus to get started is really hard. So I found that starting with ChatGPT really helps me, because otherwise I used to type like watermelon, watermelon, watermelon until something came out. Like, this is a little more productive, not a lot more productive, but a little more productive than that. So for example, in this situation, I said, hey, I need to create an outline. In this case, it was for a 10-minute talk introducing AI. So I just went to ChatGPT and I asked it to do that. So I'm just going to take a little step out for a minute. We're gonna go look at ChatGPT. And I'm already logged into my account. And this is free. ChatGPT is free. And all I do in here is I type a box, see where it says new chat here? I just typed in create a talk outline for about AI for a 10-minute talk. And it created one, and I was like, I don't like that one. So all I do is I click this regenerate button and it gives me another one. And maybe I like it more and maybe I'll like it less. The outline I end up with is probably not going to share that much in common with this outline that I got as a starting place. Nevertheless, editing is a different muscle to flex than creating. And so sometimes that gets me unstuck. Any questions about ChatGPT? Okay. By the way, anytime you guys have questions, you don't have to wait till the end. Just raise your hand, shout them out. This is really for you. So, all right, go ahead. Right.
So who owns the content I see on the screen right now?
So that's a very good question. And that whole idea of IP is something we're going to talk about in detail a little later in the presentation. But yeah.
I'll come back to the dollar.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it gets to, the ownership gets credit and
There-
everything.
Nobody gets credit.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. And that's something that we will talk about in detail from the artist's perspective. Yeah.
And the plagiarism, I mean, you know, I write scientific papers and I'm really against ChatGPT for that reason, because.
So,
it's not original work. It's, you know,
yeah.
it's found in computer.
Right. I mean, it is and it isn't. And
And we have programs to check it.
yes, we do. And I do want to talk about the ownership and the legal stuff. But we're going to kind of put that on the second half of the presentation. I kind of want to just give an overview of the tech first. Yeah.
Where is it getting the content? Isn't it scouring and it could actually end up pulling from your papers?
It can be, it can be.
But it just, is it pulling concepts? I mean.
So they all have different educational models. And they're all a little bit closed-mouthed about where those educational models are. And the truth of it is, most of the time we don't know. Previously, OpenAI was very open about their models, and then they got a multi-billion-dollar valuation and suddenly became very closed-mouthed about their content teaching model when they got to ChatGPT-4. And some of it is coming from the internet, some of it is coming from different archives. The reality of it is, a lot of it is just coming from publicly available information. And we will talk about this, like I said, a little further in the presentation, but the bad news is the ship has sailed and the content is out there. And so whether you're for it or against it, until stuff that's already out there is out there. There are things potentially you can do in the future to prevent people from accessing that content, but it also prevents the people you want to access your content from accessing your content. So we'll talk a little bit towards the end about some mitigation strategies, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to tell you my questions, but I'll hold off on those. I haven't seen the documentation too much, but is there a way you can add training knowledge to these existing models and then have it move back around to answer prompts based on knowledge you gave it?
So
Could you repeat that to the owls so the
Sure.
folks online can hear better?
So the question is, can you train it yourself with your own data? Yes, there are more professional versions of this that you can use, and there's also an open API. There's an API version where you can use it to write code. You can use it to use specific language models, specific learning models. What I'm showing today is sort of the early, easy access stuff, but it's a very, very rich and deep backend.
I use it extensively for software, and sometimes it's knowledge so long ago. the versions have been deprecated. and
Yeah.
there's, ways, so I was wondering, like, well, what if I could just like.
Yeah.
send the current documentation for whatever language or framework.
Yep.
Update it.
Yep. Yeah, that's something we're gonna talk about that in a minute, like what information is new and what information is old. But I want to kind of hop back in a little bit and talk about some of these other things that you can do with the technology. Another thing you can do is make images, and all of the images in this presentation have been created using DALL-E. So as you can see in this picture up above, sometimes it's not so successful, especially if you're drawing pictures of humans. There are other products that are better at that, but when you're drawing pictures of, say, robots, which is what I use for most of this presentation, it works pretty well. So you have to watch for that uncanny valley. Does anybody want to see a quick demo of DALL-E, or have you played with it? Yeah, I'm seeing some heads, okay.
Can you load in images?
Yeah.
Of every style guide, so to speak, and then just.
I don't know. I haven't used it that way. I haven't used it with a style guide. I've basically just used it as an open image creation tool. This DALL-E is no longer free, but I think I got something like 1,500 searches for $15. So it's pretty cheap. And one of the things that's really interesting, so like you, in this box that says generate, you just tell it what you want it to make. So somebody shout out something you want to, an image you want to see.
Chip circuit board for optimized for AI.
Okay. I'm not super optimistic, but we'll give it a shot. Well, that's just the holding, that's just the hold screen, so. I hope we get something a little more relevant than that. Okay. So, they could be. I mean, they're close up enough that you're not really gonna get a lot of. Monkey playing golf, okay. So you just type it in here, and it usually gives you four options. And I'm just gonna click generate. Takes a second. But okay, there you go. You've got a monkey playing golf. Yeah, one thing you should know about these images, though, is they're not guaranteed to not have licensed materials in them. So, you may find something in here. You can put Mickey Mouse eating a Big Mac at McDonald's and it'll generate it. I wouldn't use that image, right? So you have to use a little common sense when you're in this space when it comes to licensing and promotion issues. Sorry, I'm not as centered on the owl as I should be, but it's very easy to use. And one of the things that I really love is this history feature. So I can go back and I can see all of the different searches that I've done, and you can see that I've done many, many of them. It also is really lousy when you tell it to put words in things. It doesn't, it puts kind of a word that's sort of like the word you want, but not actually the word you want. So that can be a little frustrating, but you'll see a lot of these images throughout the presentation. Okay. So another really interesting way that this generative AI is being used is in music. And there are some great tools, like OpenAI has a tool called Muse AI, but it's a little complicated to show. But I wanted to just give you a quick example of this. Google created this doodle, which is its first generative AI doodle. And I think it's kind of brilliant. I just want to give you a quick demonstration. Okay, so we're going to skip the intro. So what this is I can come in here and I can put my notes. Okay, and then so it has all of the Bach chorales in there. And if I want to harmonize it, well, first of all, I can play my melody. need to go back to the tonic. Oops, let's go back to the tonic. All right, that'll. Okay, but you can also rock and roll version. We can play the rock and roll version. And so now I'm gonna just click this harmonize button, right? If you try this at home, you can, they also include Mary Had a Little Lamb. If I don't love that one, you just push the button and it'll make another one. So this is giving you an idea how this generative AI process works. So you guys get the idea, right? It's a lot of fun, and there's some cool things here that you can use. So
Jeanette, you know music? Are
Yeah.
you're a musician, so you had a little idea.
Yeah, yeah, but like I said, if you come in here and you're like, there's a Post-it note that has sheep on it, that's Mary Had a Little Lamb. And there's a Post-it note with stars on it, that's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So you don't have to know any music to get started with it. Brian, do you want to come up a little bit and talk about using?
Sure, if you'd like, good time.
Yeah, we have time, I think.
I think what Jeanette just said there, it's like she knows music, and I think that's the key, or one of the important parts to using these things. You want to put me over into what we call ChatGPT. Is you got to kind of know what you're actually starting with.
It's one of my tabs, but I
So
can't.
you should be a brain surgeon before you do brain surgery.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably, here it is.
So as a software engineer, again, I was pretty skeptical of what was actually going to happen here. That's fine. I can just start down here. And I'm a software engineer that's mostly works in Python is kind of my area of choice. I do have some expertise in other languages. However, I may be weak on, I'm mostly a back-end person. I'm not a front-end person, but I'm always having to do a little bit of front-end type stuff. That'd be the stuff you would see on a website or whatever. And so I'm asking myself, I want a little bit of a framework. I want some of that capability to have it write some of the code so that I don't have to remember how to write all this stuff, and it would then actually fill the stuff in. So for example, I'm not any good in Node.js. So create a Node.js app, which says hello. And it's going to go in here and it's actually going to generate the code for me, every single file. It's doing that right now. And it gives me all the instructions on how to actually implement that. So I just have to follow the instructions. I cut and paste the code, and all of a sudden I would have a website that says hello. And I can get fancier and I can say, that's great. Modify the prior example to include, and this is where it takes knowledge of the domain that you're actually in, to include a word cloud example. And a word cloud, if you've ever seen these applications like Mentimeter or Slido, which is the ability to have interactivity with an audience. So if I want to create a web page, a website that actually now has the ability to interact with you guys, and every time you type on your phone on the website, it would then create a word cloud up on the presenter's page. I just do this, and it'll come in here and actually start to modify the code that it created before to now include this little feature that says allow interactivity from the audience. So it's a lot more code, but it's still all there. And then the final one is, and I'm gonna get really crazy, add code to include login using, and this is the domain knowledge, AWS Cognito. Who in the audience knows what that is? Software guy, absolutely.
Question, does it recognize C space ODE?
What did I do? Did I
Up
misspell
there
it?
in the add code,
Let's find out.
Okay.
Code to include login using AWS Cognito and storing user data on DynamoDB. These are very specific things.
Have a space between C and.
Yeah,
We're
that's
gonna
the
find
question.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I suspect not. And it doesn't care, and now it's coming in here and generating a fairly advanced application. Using some of the, some of the tools out there that include automatic login with credentials to the latest and greatest system out there. As well as storing into a sophisticated database that's actually stored on Amazon. So that's kind of my background.
Back to what you're gonna say.
You have to bring my iced tea back though, bro.
I'm sorry. I ran out of tea though.
Please, gentlemen, guest speaker, drink one. But you can see we're using these technologies in different ways. And one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm working with a blockchain company and I'm documenting a lot of code in Rust. And that's not a big area of expertise for me. But anytime I have a command that comes up and I'm like, well, what does that do in Rust? I can come in here and I can say, name the command. It'll tell me what the inputs are, what the outputs are, what the notes are, all of this stuff that can help me do my job better. So yeah, so we're talking about the sort of optimistic side of this first. We're gonna have plenty of dystopia, don't worry.
What about imaging software? You drew pictures, but like analyzing pictures like pathologists.
Yes, there are, so the question was, what about analyzing images? Like, for example, analyzing slides for pathology. There are many tools out there that do that. I don't think ChatGPT is particularly well trained in that arena. I haven't tried it, but there are quite a few AI-based diagnostic tools that are very strong in that environment. I don't know the names of them right now, but I know that they exist. Was there a question from online?
Could you give it code and have it analyze it and document it for you?
Yes, but just like Brian would say in the code that it generates, you have to check. Because sometimes it's right and sometimes it isn't. And documenting so like understanding what a call is very useful for me. But ChatGPT is not going to know how the software that I'm documenting uses that call and why it uses that call. So I can have it help me with the structure of the language, but the documentation part in terms of how it applies to this brand new product, that's something that I kind of have to dot the I's on.
Right. One thing I
sense?
one thing I also wanted to bring up though, in business, it's like my company has very strict rules. We cannot use ChatGPT at all for anything business related for security reasons.
Yes, and we are definitely going to hit that in the dystopian section that is shortly coming down the pike. Hold on, the optimism is almost over, guys. So the question is, can AI truly create? Well, if you think about creating, there's a couple of different kinds of creating. There's combinational, and AI is really fairly decent at that. Take a Jackson Pollock, put a monkey in front of it, it can do that, right? It can create something that looks like a Pollock and put a monkey in front of it. Exploratory is sort of another level, and that is take the notion of impressionism and push it towards a large stroke extreme, right? Or push it towards, so you can take it and it's less able to do that. But when you're talking about transformational kinds of creation, it's still pretty much a long way from that, where you come up with, you take this combination thing, that's sort of step one in creation, and then you've got this exploratory thing. How can I push it? But the idea of creating something truly new and unique, AI is not that strong in that space just yet. Okay, so where are you going to find AI? It's everywhere. It's mostly invisible. You interact with AI in your life every day, all the time. Voice assistants, spam filters, image recognition, that's something that you mentioned, fraud detection, preference engines, like what Netflix puts on your first page, predictive text, if you start typing and that's all AI. It's in a lot of media and entertainment applications. It's in streamlining productions. It's helping a lot with special effects. It's assembling news stories, and it's helping to come up with new ideas, which it's about time because, you know, I can only see so many superhero movies and I need to see something else. So I'm a little hopeful that something cool is going to come out of that. Opportunities. There are opportunities that come out of the AI space. One is the blank page problem that I mentioned earlier. Another is the repetitive communications problem. If you have 25 emails to send, and they only have to change this, and this field, ChatGPT is remarkably good at, I need to send, this is the base text. I need to change it this way. It needs to have this kind of tone. It's terrific at that. Taking a piece of text and changing it, like, take this and explain it for a second grader. Okay, take this and make it sound like I'm academic. Take this and make it sound like I know what the heck I'm talking about. ChatGPT is great at that, right? Predicting problems before they happen. AI is really good at that, like finding where security problems are likely to arise. Helping guide research. AI is really great at that. There are going to be new jobs that come out of this. There are new skills that are going to arise out of using AI for trainers and creators. And the new, you know, like back in the day, I used to say I had really good Google food, like that search capability of knowing what to put in the box to precisely get what you want. That's a whole nother skill set. And there's a whole career path involved in that arena. Documenting AI, talking about AI, teaching people about AI, but developing these queries. You know, when we were talking about search engine optimization, how many years have we been talking about that? There's going to be the same kind of mechanism coming into these new AI spaces. So that's pretty cool. Last time I was here, I talked about Web3 and I talked about blockchain and all of that. The metaverse is going to require just unprecedented amounts of graphics and characters and all of that stuff. AI can be a great tool. You say, take this graphic design palette, take the characters from this novel, take this and put it together, and now I have a metaverse. Now, if any of those pieces are not public domain, you're going to have a problem. However, if you wrote the book and you want to create the metaverse from your book, this is a great tool to help you. So that said, I promise, dun, 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 here comes the dystopian part, I promise. So there's a number of challenges that come along with all of this great stuff that comes from AI. One is that sometimes it flat out lies. And I've experienced this in my life. I've worked on very, very esoteric blockchain papers. And you need to try and find a citation for this odd thing that you see happening. Chances are, if you go to ChatGPT and you say, I need a paper on blah, 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 it will make one up. Does it all the time. And I was like, I was talking to somebody who I was working with in this blockchain company. And I'm like, oh, I found this paper. And he's like, did you find it on ChatGPT? I said, yeah. He said, I bet you $1 it doesn't exist. I'm like, no. Sure enough, it just made it up, made up authors, made up a title, made it up.
No, in the journals, I've seen that.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's really scary. So use but verify people. You cannot ever just assume straight up that anything you find in ChatGPT is 100% accurate or true. There was a legal firm that recently got cited by the judiciary because they were using cases out of ChatGPT that weren't real. That just weren't real. They had like journal names and pages and all, and it was just. So this is something that you
There
need
is a question online, just to reconfirm, I think you pretty much addressed it, but specifically, does DALL-E or any of the others let you know if material is licensed?
No,
And
they do
that's
not.
What I thought.
They do not. And so that's why, and we're gonna talk about that a little more in a minute, but that's why in an application like this, where I have a deck, I'm not getting paid, I've got some robots doing cool stuff, I feel fairly safe using this in this environment. Am I going to create images like this and put them into a book that's going to be published on paper in a library? Probably not, because if there's a problem, it's very difficult for me to go back and fix that, right? So this is something where you have to draw your own sort of line in terms of risk reward, but it's not so different than right-clicking on images on the internet and sticking them in your deck, right? We all do that all the time. I try to use like ones that are safe, but there's no guarantee, even if they say they're safe, that they actually are. So it's a risk reward situation that I can't tell you what the right answer is. You have to decide in the situation. Ethics.
You know, we record all this evidence, right?
Yeah, I know. I know. But I'm fairly certain I know a lawyer that can help me get the Zoom taken down if I need to. Yeah. Right, you'll help me take it down, right, if we get a cease and desist.
And making it, case law, we can just get the case law wherever.
That's true, just make it up. Yeah.
And then you can write a real law article about it in a real law journal.
Yeah, exactly. But ethics is an issue, right? A lot of things that are happening in AI are not transparent, and you do not know what's going on under the hood. And it's very easy for human biases to creep into AI biases, into AI algorithms without us realizing that. For example, some of the early facial recognition software was not very adept at recognizing faces with darker skin. And a lot of it was to do with the samples that the scientists chose to use to educate the detection software. And so by not teaching it in a diverse way, it became biased in a way, and it was more likely to return a false positive on darker skin. That's just one example. And there have been a lot of technologies that have come on since to mitigate that, but it's still a challenge. There's privacy issues. How do I know how my stuff is being used? This opacity question, like I said, we don't know what's going on under the hood. Also, there's this whole question about job efficiency. There have been a number of articles that have come out in the New York Times over the last several months of people who are working from home, especially young people, that have 2 or 3 full-time jobs. And they are using AI to make their work more efficient. Is that legal? I don't know. Is it cool? Well, if they're getting the work done, these are the kinds of ethical questions that are coming up that we're going to have to deal with. As not just as a result of AI, but also as a result of the pandemic, as a result of working from home. Security. Anything you put into ChatGPT or Bard or any of these systems is not guaranteed to be kept secure. And somebody mentioned, in our business, we're not allowed to use it. That's why. If you are in a business that has corporate secrets, anything you type in there, there's no guarantee it's not going to leak out into the world. So this is not a tool you want to use if you're creating the next, Oppenheimer project, okay? You have to be aware of that personal information. Personal information you put in there, there's a risk. There's a risk of hacks. There's a risk of misuse. these things are real and there's not a clear answer for it yet. I think it's coming. It's only been super hot for about, 6 months. So, give it a little time. But these are issues that you need to be aware of right now when you're talking about this tech. Legal, this is something that a number of you have mentioned. Content ownership is not guaranteed. There's a lot of opportunity for misuse, for misappropriation, for unfair hiring practices. There's all kinds of things that are legal implications that we've just started to scratch the surface of, because it's brand new and we don't really know yet how that's all going to play out. I mentioned a couple of key cases like this legal case. I wish I could say, here are the bullet points of everything you need to know. We don't know yet. It's brand new. So the question of equality and equity, who has access to this technology, who can pay for it, who can't pay for it, how is that going to become a new digital divide going forward? A lot of these tools are free now. How long are they going to stay free? Is it going to be a freemium kind of model where you need to have an expensive subscription? Already, even with OpenAI, ChatGPT 2 is free, but 3 and 4 are not. DALL-E is not free. Muse AI is not free. So there are questions about who will have access to these things and who will have access to the job training that teaches them how to use these things.
And just to add, Lynn online has told us that one of the cases about the misuse of AI, for those of you that want to go look it up, is Roberto Mata versus Avianca.
Thank you. Did she say what the case is about? You wanna
It's
unmute?
real. It's filed in the U.S. District Court of New York. She has the order to show cause and supporting declarations, and it's a case involving the misuse of AI. I don't know if she's able to unmute.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot of the details because quite frankly, I attended this a few days ago and haven't read it yet, but the plaintiff's attorney responded to a defense motion by filing some kind of a reply that cited cases, just like you were saying earlier, cited cases, ostensibly quotes from the case, none of which existed. And the judge came down really hard, and this attorney and I think his assistant had to throw themselves on the mercy of the court and beg forgiveness for not having done their due diligence, just sort of plopping whatever came up in, I think it was, I don't remember which one, whether it's Chat or Bard, but having plopped that into the reply brief and getting caught.
Yeah, that's no bueno, guys. You got, use but verify. And it's a great place to start, right? But before you lock it in stone and sign it and seal it, maybe you want to double check. I mean, you can easily search these things in other sources, especially if you're in the legal, industry. There's LexisNexis, there's all kinds of places that are pretty substantial and well recognized that you can do this work. So the last question that everybody asks is, are the robots going to take over the earth? Well, the answer is probably not anytime soon. But
well, that's
not anytime soon. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out in the long term. However, what I do think we're going to see is a little bit of talkie toaster action coming up. And this is why I said when the toaster talks back is the title for this talk. It doesn't mean just that it's responding. It's that some of these AI situations might start getting sassy. And we don't know how that's all going to play out. Like if you're going to have to pay more for AI that's not nasty to you, or we don't really know how it's all going to be. I don't think that this Terminator notion, this Skynet notion that the robots are going to come and burn us all to a crisp. I think we're okay on that front for at least a couple more decades. But I think the major thing that we need to watch out for is this line between real and unreal, lies and truth. It's become blurred in so many ways, and this technology makes it blurrier, sometimes intentionally and sometimes completely as an unintended consequence. And that's, I think, something in terms of our world going forward that we're going to need to keep an eye out on. Okay, so that's my conclusion. I mean, this technology can make the world better. It's a tool. It can make the world worse. It's up to us how we wield it. And just as we've seen in the blockchain stuff that I talked about before, and in the Web3 and all of this stuff, paying people for their work, cooperating, and being transparent, those are three major things that are going to make AI, just like virtually everything else, work better. Okay, questions?
Let's get you back on the screen too to answer.
Okay.
So we can see your face, Simon.
Is there AI that will check the factual basis of AI? And that's what you need. You need
Watcher.
yeah. And then that's what's the digital.
So I think one of the major areas of growth that we're going to see in the near term are tools that are designed to make these tools, these large language tools, more useful. So for example, if I'm writing in Node.js, a Node.js cleaner tool that goes into my ChatGPT generated code and learns the kinds of mistakes that ChatGPT is likely to make, looks for them and cleans them up, that's probably a tool as a software developer I would pay for. As far as determining truth, I think we're still in a situation where I would not trust an AI tool to check my AI tool for validity. I would use other tools. However, like for example, I've worked with some companies that are getting ready to do a pitch. One of the things when you're ready to pitch a company that's very time consuming is, first of all, has anybody else got this idea? And second of all, what are the ideas that are close to mine, and how do I shake out competitively? ChatGPT is fantastic at doing that kind of work. Am I going to just cut and paste that and put in my business plan? Well, no, but it can really shortcut that initial research step that's really time consuming.
But if you put your idea into the ChatGPT, someone. Exactly.
They could steal it, but honestly, if it's that easy to steal, you're probably out of luck anyways. You better have some. I mean, a lot of people still have this notion that I'm going to make all this, I'm going to get rich because I have a good idea. You better have more than a good idea if you want to make some money from it. Yeah.
So right now, ChatGPT is built on a model, a language model specific to the tasks that it was designed for. Are there, and I think the answer is yes. As an entrepreneur, I see opportunities today to be just building many, many more models that are specific to biomed, specific to all these different type of areas.
That is absolutely happening, and that is a massive growth market. Everything from
What are the early ones out there?
Travel is an early one. So instead of having to go through 14 sites to book my trip, I say, I want to go sometime between the second week of June and the fourth week of June. I want to stay for 6 nights. I want to go to an Airbnb in a tropical location, and I don't want to spend more than $200 a night. Right, and it'll look all that stuff up for you, some of these travel tools, and that's very useful. I'm not going to let it book my plane ticket, but it's useful. Yeah.
Well, just as another practical example, because the world always revolves around dogs, pets, and animals. The Los Angeles County Animal Care and Control Department just won a national award for the use of an AI application to analyze licensing data. So they have reduced the time that it takes to take a little piece of paper, a little form, and put in all the dates into their database, and now they run it through an AI software program, and it is, they've reduced 90% of the staff time that was being devoted to collecting that important
Yeah.
data. And they won the national award for it because they're using AI software. So,
Unlike
good for them.
a certain city that I know really well, where you have to go to the sheriff's office and they have a pink and a white copy that they write on with a pen. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's good that the government is being more efficient. It does give a good example of the change in job skills that are required and the amount of staff required for.
Other questions, online or in the room? We got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say on my way in, I'm sorry that I was late, I was listening to Marketplace. And they were saying that the AI economy will add, and I can't remember the time frame, fairly short time frame, $5 trillion to the worldwide economy. But there will be only half the people delivering that. So there are people in the knowledge economy who are not going to be part of the knowledge economy anymore. If that is true, that is a
It's a prediction, and yeah.
That's a prediction.
So every new technology that's ever come around, there's the, what about our jobs question, and it's a legitimate question. It's happening, we're not gonna stop it, so it's time to start thinking about how to work in this economy. And I work as a tech explainer, so a lot of people have asked me, well, aren't you worried that ChatGPT is gonna take your job? No, not right now, because I'm mostly working with stuff that's never, ever been documented before. And stuff that the engineers don't know how to explain to anybody yet, so I'm working on new things. Now, if I were a blog writer, who, by the way, don't get paid very well to begin with, this is an area that I would be concerned, because startup companies especially, or companies that are short on budget, they tend to skip on content creators anyways. So if I were a blog writer, I would say, well, there's a couple of things that ChatGPT doesn't do very well. And one of them is to have a unique voice. So that's something I would work on as a writer. What is my style? What is my unique voice? What is the special sauce that I bring to this job? Another thing that I would be doing right now is I would be on these online university courses like Curry on Rice, and I would be, I'm learning these new technologies. I'm learning how to do the prompts. A lot of this stuff you learn by doing. Just sit down. You don't have to dedicate 20 years. Dedicate 20 minutes a day or even 20 minutes a week to playing with this stuff and learning about it, because being good at it might mean the difference between getting your next job and not getting your next job. You guys who are just starting out, man, this is a place where nobody else has a master's degree in this yet, right? Because it's brand new. So I would be figuring out how you can get to the front of the line with this knowledge to help give you an advantage. What's that? Oh, go ahead.
Mine is basically this question as well, because there's a lot of talk about, people are losing their jobs at Google right now, because, AI is taking over, so.
Yeah, they're not losing their jobs at Google because AI is taking over. Let me clarify that right now. There's a lot of people at Google losing their jobs. One of the reasons is they went crazy with the hiring during the pandemic. But if you dig a little deeper into that Google story, there was kind of a free-for-all period where if you're an upper level person at Google and you want to get to the next level, you have to groom the right team underneath you, right? And you have to claim that you're going to make some really great product. Whether or not you make that product may have nothing to do with whether you get promoted, but it has to do with the kind of hiring that you do. And a lot of that hiring, at least from what I'm reading from insiders, people who used to work at Google, a lot of that hiring was maybe not as well thought out as it should have been in the first place. And the upper level people maybe were not held as accountable as they should have been. But those jobs are not being lost because of AI. They're being lost because of bad management, really.
Well, one of the variables to that was that they actually, a lot of high-tech companies hired people to keep the next company from hiring them.
Yep.
They took them out of the marketplace.
Yep.
Officially, and then gave them nothing to do for umpteen number of months.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah, so software engineering has truthfully been one of the more open paths for people from non-comp sci backgrounds.
Mhm.
Do you think that as AI is able to do a lot of knowing software development through like the basic schemas and certain kind of components, that we revert back to kind of requiring that 4-year comp sci degree again, because the work that's being done is a higher level again now. It's not just writing a simple hello world, it's, kind of gets more complex again. Since AI is going with, all that piece of stuff.
Any job that is very repetitive and doesn't require a lot of skill, I'd be looking for how you can learn AI tools to make you more efficient. I think what's going to happen is like there was this major sort of at one point there was the idea that we were 2 million people short in trained AI people for our current market in the United States, 2 million developers short. So there was this period of frenzy, hiring frenzy, where a lot of people got hired. And as you mentioned, a lot of people got hired just to make sure that they were in the back pocket. And then once the economy cooled a little bit, some of those people are let go. You can be sure that the people who are working at these places who have stuff to do are using AI to get more efficient at their jobs. So from that standpoint, yeah, you really, I don't even think it's so much about the degree. It's about what do you know how to do and how can you look through something and like I'm a writer, but I'm also an editor, right? So for basic kinds of writing, I'm going to have a harder time getting that low hanging fruit writing. But as somebody who has a lot of experience as an editor who can edit really fast, I can use that skill instead to take this ChatGPT generated mess and make it into something better, because that takes less effort than writing it in the first place. So it's not so much that there's no jobs, you just have to really think about the job market with these things in mind, is my recommendation.
I think the analogy would be the same as when, in the last 15, 20 years when we were looking at being more effective and more efficient in our jobs. We learned how to use database systems. We learned how to use design systems. We learned how to use, spreadsheets, things of that nature, so that your job became a lot easier, and you could generate, templates that you, instead of writing a letter every time, you had a template that you would dust off and make all the changes.
I think that's critical. I think it doesn't replace the need to know how.
No.
Doesn't replace the need to know the process or that engineering background or that creative background. But it does make that person more efficient. More efficient.
Yeah, I mean, we've had macros in Excel for quite some time yet now, but I think we still need accountants. So, it's a matter of degree.
Meanwhile, in some computer somewhere, the AI is trying to figure out how to use us.
Not yet. Not yet.
We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
Just thank Jeanette, very, very interesting.